Hey guys, this is my prediction video for John Ryder versus Bilal Akkawy on the Canelo Alvarez versus Danny Jacobs undercard. This is not going to be a very easy fight to predict because Bilal is such a unknown commodity. He's a sparring partner for Canelo Alvarez, and according to Canelo, he hits harder than Gennady Golovkin, but who knows? That could just be bullshit. He could just be trying to antagonize Golovkin. The only time I've ever seen Akkawy fight is against Giovanni Di Chiarolese, who was coming off of being stopped by Tiran Zoiga, who got stopped by Rocky Fielding. Di Chiarolese is a really good journeyman from Italy. Not quite a journeyman, he's a step above a journeyman. He stopped Vincent Fagenbutz in their rematch. A rematch he should have won the first one time around. With the Zoiga fight, it was closer. The first fight was back and forth, but I mean, it was a deserved draw. If anything, Di Chiarolese maybe edged it. So he's slightly better than average, but at that point, he was looking a little past it. He'd been shut out by a Russian fighter. I forgot exactly who. I forgot. My name is escaping me at the moment. And he was coming off of a pretty bad loss, and he made Akkawy look bad. Akkawy barely won that fight, and there's a lot of dodgy referee work going on, and there's a lot of holding, and they both look gassed. So if that's the best he looks at world level, then that's cause for concern. Now, who knows? Maybe he just had an off night. I doubt it, though. Where's John Ryder? John Ryder has looked like $1,000,000 since moving up to super middleweight. And of course, everybody's going to look at his record and say, oh, look at that. He lost to Rocky Fielding. Well, those people who really haven't watched that match, they're just running off the mouth and taking the word of BoxRec as gospel. Well, the actual fight was a lot closer. It was pretty close. Some people scored it for Fielding. Most people scored it for Ryder, though. I've scored it both ways. But a draw is probably the most accurate score. Either a draw or close, maybe 1-2 point victory for Ryder. And that was Ryder's first fight at super middleweight against a really big guy. And Ryder not only held his own, but he was bullying the much bigger guy around, and he wasn't really setting down on his punches. But after he got acclimated to the weight, he's been a wrecking machine. And since then, he destroyed Patrick Nielsen with several right hooks, and he did the same thing to Jamie Cox, and he stopped him way quicker than George Groves did. And recently, he fought against Andrei Sirotkin, who was an undefeated fighter coming out of Russia that was quite impressive, and he'd been on a pretty good winning streak up to that point. And Ryder destroyed all three of them. He's really found his footing at that weight. Now, how much of that has to do with the fact that John Ryder is a southpaw, and the guys that he fought were southpaws. Even though Sirotkin fought him in the orthodox stance, it wasn't his natural stance. His natural stance is southpaw, and eventually it kind of worked it his way around where he was fighting him kind of squared up in front of him, and John was able to rip the body and catch him with the right hook quite a few times and hurt him. But yeah, John is a little bit of a southpaw killer because he's a southpaw himself. So all the southpaws he fights are all open to his right hook, and that's a deadly punch. He was able to stop Cox quicker than Groves did. He was able to stop Patrick Nielsen, whereas Arthur Abraham could not. But Akkawy may not be as susceptible to that right hook as anybody else because Akkawy is an orthodox fighter, but he's a sloppy orthodox fighter. So I think that the real Akkawy is probably the one that fought Di Chiarolese. And at this point, I would not hesitate in picking John Ryder to stop Di Chiarolese. I think he's hitting a lot harder. He's found his proper weight. And I mean, Ryder's got very underrated power, even as a middleweight. When he was a middleweight, I think Billy Joe Saunders said he was the only guy that ever hurt him. And you can see, he visibly stuns Saunders. Granted, Saunders is also a southpaw. But I think experience is going to tell him this fight. And it might be a very close fight. but I think Ryder is smarter, knows how to pace himself better. And he's got decent defense, and he's going to use the aggression of Akkawy against him. He's getting pretty good at tying people up, and he's great at landing inside shots. So I think he's going to catch him and counter him quite a bit, because Akkawy is very sloppy the last time I saw him. Now, if it goes the distance, who knows how it's going to go. I mean, are they gonna edge towards Canelo's buddy? It is on Canelo's undercard, or they're gonna go towards Hearn's guy. And Hearn is involved because Hearn also represents Danny Jacobs. So if it goes to the cards, it's a toss-up. Who knows? It could be a draw. But I'm leaning towards John Ryder by late stoppage, maybe around 8th, 9th, 10th, because I think Akkawy is just a little too inexperienced, and he's never been in there with a guy as good as John Ryder. The last guy I was in with that was close to as good as John Ryder came within a round of beating him. So, all right, that's all I got. Thanks, guys.